the legendary Honda Africa Twin. Ever since it's introduced, it's been working fantastically well for the community as an enduro bike. In this video, I'm going to see how it works as a road bike, as a commuter bike. For that purpose, this edition is equipped with tires that are suited for road. There are no knobs in it for or on it for dirt, just plain street tires, but the wheels are still the same type. They're narrow at the front, narrow at the rear, so it's the same wheels with the spokes, but just street tires are mounted on it. The ABS is switchable. There's the button for it in the middle of the picture, and one benefit of a narrower wheel is that the bike turns easier and the tire is potentially cheaper for a narrower, smaller wheel. The bike's turning radius was just measured. It's 11 feet and 3 inches. Standard lane width is 12 feet, so it can do a U-turn in a single lane. That's pretty good. Other than that, the bike is also equipped with dual clutch transmission. So that means that the clutch assembly here is a little thicker and sticking further out than usual. There is no clutch lever here. There is nothing. There is a lever here, but this isn't a clutch. So on this side you'll see a parking brake, which works like this. I'm gonna have to set it like so. It's a strong pull, and then to release it, just pull on it. But it's really strong. It's like you can find this kind of stuff on quads. And there is no shifter here. There's nothing here. This is where the gear shifter usually is. There's absolutely nothing here. So we'll see how this bike works as a commuter bike, because it has some features on it that make it really city friendly. Obviously for the bike's geometry and size, hopping over curbs is not going to be an issue. And before we go anywhere, ABS at the front, ABS at the back, dual disc brakes at the front, and of course single disc brake at the back. What I'm looking at is three-way adjustable upside down forks. One adjustment is down here for compression, damping. For rebound, it's adjustable here, and I'm sure somewhere you can adjust it for preload as well. The rear shock is also three-way adjustable. One adjustment is here on this side. The preload is on this side here, and rebound is down here there with that adjustment bolt or nut or screw. The bike is chain driven. I don't know if that's going to be practical or whatever, but in wet weather and in dirt, chains need more TLC than shaft driven motorcycle. The frame is welded into a single unit, but is the subframe here is one piece with the main frame, so if there is any dings or damage, the whole frame needs to be replaced. Salt, winter road conditions, what have you, or for rain if you live in a tropical country or whatever, where there is a lot of rain. I want to point out that for valve adjustment is really friendly. The valve adjustment is done with a single screwdriver and a 10mm wrench. Okay, so there is no shims, there is no measuring with a micrometer it's not complicated. You just pop the lid off, screwdriver and a 10mm wrench. I have a video about it. Honda's new Africa Twins motor is on display here. It's enclosed, so I can't put my hand on the components I'm going to be talking about, but I have a couple of mechanical observations here about this thing. Let's start here at the alternator. You can see it's a huge, wide, round chunk of spinning metal, stationary at the moment, right in the middle of the picture. So, starting at the alternator, look at the width of this engine. The alternator flywheel is there, and then the transmission colored red and blue, and all the way out here to the dual clutch transmission here. This motor is fitted with dual clutch transmission because the two clutch sets one colored blue, the other one colored red, is one on top of another or one in front of another. Either which way you look at it, they are mounted on the same shaft. So this makes the motor really wide across all the way back to the alternator flywheel. Okay, so whether it's a convenience to you or an inconvenience, that's up to you, but it's a feature, it's interesting. It's how Honda made it this wide, double wide, and they market it this way. Another one is concerning valve adjustments. You can see the springs in the middle of the picture, and there is some cams reaching out to the top of the springs, and you can see some bolts on it. Probably 10mm wrench will loosen those bolts. The valves don't adjust with shims. These are not the cam lobes directly compressing the springs. The little screws mounted at the end of the cam arms are decompressing or compressing the springs. So on the surface area where the pressure is distributed for compressing those springs is really, really small. This kind of screw type adjustment is reasonable on a 125cc engine, but on an Africa Twin 1000 whatever, it's a big engine. Okay, I don't know how practical it is. In a desert, I guess it's practical if you have to check your valve lash or valve clearance with a feeler gauge and two 10mm wrenches, but why would you need to do that in the middle of the desert? And so anyhow, I don't know how practical this is, that they went, instead of cams with big and wide cam lobes and pressing against shims, they went with these Mickey Mouse size screws. So that's that. Lastly, we're back on this side. Look at the size of the piston. The piston is big and wide and flat up top. That's nice, but it's also very shallow sideways. So the engine has a skinny stroke or a short stroke. That means it doesn't have a lot of torque necessarily, and you have to rev the engine to make it go anywhere. I don't know how practical that is in a touring bike that you have to spin it. So these are my mechanical observations. There you have it. This is a standard Africa Twin with a manual gearbox, not the dual touch transition, and you can see that the thickness of the manual cable pull transmission here is a lot less, so it sticks out a lot less, but it's also protected the same way with a plastic heat shield here, and it's just as hot as on the dual clutch transmission, but it's a little and it's also the same height, so if you go flip-flops and shorts, it's gonna burn you at the same spot, but it's sticking out to the side a lot less, or I don't know, this much less, something like that. The center of gravity is also high on this bike. The oil filter, you can see it just right there, and it doesn't have a sump, okay, under the engine. It doesn't have a wet sump lubrication, it's got a dry sump lubrication. It does have a little bit of an oil pan, but not much oil is in it. There is an oil pump somewhere on the bike that's circulating the oil on it, and there is an oil reservoir somewhere tucked away, and the lack of sump is so that it gives the bike ground clearance. It's a common feature on enduro bikes, and the same was adopted for this bike. So no sump on this one, but it has the additional mechanical complexity of having an oil reservoir elsewhere, which raises its center of gravity, and an additional oil pump somewhere on it elsewhere that also adds weight higher up. The bike is really easy to get on, even though it looks tall, and easy to sit on it, and I have both of my feet on the ground solidly, even though I'm 6 foot tall with a 32-inch inseam, so my height is 181 centimeters. The bike sounds chuggy, but doesn't vibrate much at all. It's really actually vibration-free. Handlebars, tank, frame, seat, or the pegs, they are pretty free of vibration. It's really nice. The bike basically operates like a scooter. You can put it in neutral at an intersection here, or you can put it in gear. like so. Now it's in first gear there. It's got a gear indicator and this black on white or white on black display. And once it's in gear, you just twist and go there. And when you come to a stop, you just stop in first gear. If you want, you can put it in neutral. And of course, it doesn't go anywhere. You can put it in first. And I have both hands on holding the camera, and the bike is not going anywhere because all the work is being done by the dual clutch transmission at this point. It's really nice. Both in D mode and S mode, that's selectable here, the bike always tends to be in a very, very high gear. Right now we're doing under 50 kilometers an hour, like 48, 49, 50, 51, and the bike is in third gear. That makes the bike very slow to accelerate. If you want to accelerate suddenly and merge with a fast-going traffic, it's very sluggish and very grandfatherly. That may or may not be a problem for merging, but it's a very nice mannered bike. It turns really well. Like right now we're leaning in this corner, I'm holding the camera, I just need to hold the clutch and steer and not crash into anybody, and it turns really easily. There you can see the bike is shifting down, and it's always keeping the RPMs in a the lowest possible RPMs in both S mode and in D mode as well. So far this is just 10 minutes into the ride. I couldn't see a difference, but it's very sluggish to accelerate and merge with the highway. So this is how the bike accelerates if I just apply the throttle gently. There. A whole lot of not much going. At this point I apply the throttle gently like I normally apply throttle on a ZX6. It's not a comparison of ZX6 versus Africa Twin. It's a comparison of the net result of the twist of the throttle. Okay? So it needs to be twisted a lot more to produce some reasonable amount of acceleration on the Africa Twin. It's very easy to get used to. Just twist the throttle more. Let's see one more acceleration here from about 40 kilometers an hour. Oh yeah, it does go. So here is how typical acceleration looks like. It's going, there are no problems there. It just needs a little more twist on the throttle than I'm used to on my ZX6. There is of course an automatic and manual selector switch here that makes the bike behave like a manual, so in that case neither the D nor the S is displayed under the gear position indicator number 1 there in this case. So at any speed it just doesn't shift anywhere. Shifting needs to be done manually using the pedals. So, but it's easy to fix it because you can downshift here with this button just by flicking it like so, and you can upshift with this other gray button here. It's a plus on it. And then you can see well enough that it doesn't do any shifting if the bike is in manual here. That also means it doesn't go into neutral. the seat is nice and squishy and really comfortable with its padding. The hand guards here don't do a whole lot in terms of protection. I went without gloves intentionally. The hand guard is only this wide, so they, other than make an extra draft around your hand, they don't do a whole lot. The fairing doesn't really help deflect wind from your hands. The windshield is cute. It gets the bugs off the chest, but any speeds over 70 kilometers an hour, you're gonna be getting a lot of turbulence around your helmet. And I'm just looking at the adjustment here. I'm sure this adjusts somehow. Maybe it's not adjustable. Well, anyhow, alright, it doesn't quite work with my height and my helmet, and whatever, maybe I'm too tall, whatever. So highway speeds don't work so much, and the handlebar in general is very nice and comfy. Lots of leverage on the long handlebar. However, with these risers that you can see under the handlebar here, how the handlebar is mounted on top of the triple clamp, is that I end up with the handlebar too much in my lap, which makes me bend my back, lower back this way, or makes me want to slide here. But of course I can't stay there because I slide back down here, bending my back. So I would need a different handlebar, a straight one, or one without a riser or something, because the handlebar is too much in my lap, making me bend my back. So that's really not good. Yeah, but given the clearance here between the gas tank and the switchgear here, the riser cannot really be eliminated, so maybe this whole thing can be rotated forward, the whole handlebar somehow, but then that's gonna make it, that's gonna change this portion is gonna be now angled up, whatever. So but that's a geometric challenge here with this handlebar. Yeah, this windshield is definitely making some protecting my chest and torso, but it's giving turbulence around my head, around the helmet. I'm not saying it's not helping you keep dry if it rains, but I'm just saying that's how the wind flow is around the fairing and the windshield. So not much wind on your torso and shoulders, and everything is pushed into your head. The brakes are really sharp on the bike. They are also new. I nearly wiped out a few times. Coming from a ZX6, the brakes are that good on the Africa Twin. So very strong, responsive brakes. So just you have to go careful with it on your new bike. Yeah, doing a few slow turns at low speeds makes it immediately apparent again that the automatic is really slow to accelerate. It's not slow to respond, and that's not a problem. It's really easy to override it with the shifter over here. There. Well, not entirely an emergency stop, but something like that. That was a nice ride. So the dual clutch transmission or the electronics doesn't let you downshift at highway speeds unreasonably. That would damage the transmission or the drivetrain somewhere. So at doing 120 kilometers an hour, it can downshift from 6th, downshift 1 or 2 gears to 3rd, but doesn't or may not let you downshift to 2nd, definitely doesn't let you downshift to 1st. 1st would be definitely causing some damage. So the engineers at Honda figured it out that the computer overrides the rider input. So sometimes 1st and 2nd gear are not available if you're trying to downshift unreasonably. Other than that, I was a little bit concerned about the size of the dual clutch transmission. That is this going to be a source of heat or a source of annoyance being in the way? You know, it's not in the way. I also have like super thick padded rider pants on, but it's got a plastic in front of it here that kind of shields it from heat. it is a lot of heat. It's kind of burning my fingers right now, and with flip-flops and shorts it would definitely cause some burns on your calf. But with proper gear it's not a problem, and it's not too much in the way, even though it's bulky and whatever, but I can still flat foot comfortably on both sides at the same time. Okay, so it's not too much in the way. One last thing on the DCT: when you're transitioning from off throttle to on throttle, and the chain tension changes, so the upper run is under tension or the lower run is under tension if you're decelerating or engine braking. So that's quite abrupt when you're going no throttle, yes throttle, no throttle, yes throttle. That's quite abrupt on the chain. Maybe the chain has a little too much slack. Yeah, maybe it does. I don't know. And or maybe it's a transmission issue or characteristics, but I'm sure the chain could be tightened a little better than this, although for enduro bikes it needs to be kind of slack. This abrupt shift between off throttle and on throttle, you can't eliminate it or mitigate it by slipping the clutch. There's nothing in your hand. There's no clutch on this one that you can slip to soften the transition from off throttle to on throttle. But if the chain is correctly tensioned, because this looks like it isn't, then I'm sure it gets a lot less annoying. And with the soft suspension, the bike pitches up and then dives, pitches up and then dives. It's not annoying and it's not unreasonable, but it's characteristics with the throttle and how this dual clutch transmission works, and maybe it can be dialed out a little better with the chain tensioning. Lastly, the mirrors. The mirrors work fantastically well at any RPM. There is no vibration. They are always providing a crisp, clear image. Mirrors are done fantastically well. So overall, I like the whole bike a lot. I think you should give it a try. It works really well in city at slow speed turns, works well on a highway. I jumped the curb over there at the loading ramps a little bit with it. That was 2 jumps I did. So I'm sure it's a capable off-road or enduro bike as well, as all other reviews say so, but it works fantastically well as a city bike, especially with the dual clutch transmission. There is no vibration in the foot pegs, frame, gas tank or handlebar. That would be annoying. Most of the time the engine RPM is down to around 3000 RPM. There you can kind of barely see it, and it's only bad when it's over 6,000, but its red line is near 7,000 or something like that. So, and vibration doesn't become bad or annoying at that point in the handlebars. It's just noticeable. It becomes noticeable. So it goes from barely noticeable to noticeable, but never to the annoying, like some of the BMWs I've tested last year. So this is a bike very well made, excellently executed, really well done, and works fantastically well as a city bike. I highly recommend it that you test it and ride it and see how it works for you.